India is a global powerhouse. This is a fact. It has the richest of history and culture and potential that is unrivaled. This is a fact. Honorable Minister, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Namaste. It's a real and profound honor to be addressing you today. The Indian Council of World Affairs has a stellar reputation, a reach that is global, and an impact on policy that is transformative. The institution has a long history and forms part of a tradition. And personally, I'm a great believer in tradition. It's a compass for navigating and setting a course, but also for adjusting it when you need to. The list of speakers that you have hosted throughout the decades is full of individuals that have morphed international affairs, thinkers, shapers, visionaries, doers. These are characteristics that are rarely concentrated in a single person. And my counterpart, Minister Jaishankar, is such a rare example. His presence here today has added to the pressure of me delivering this speech. I will thus attempt to use this opportunity as an expansion of the dialogue we already had today, as a revealing to the audience and to the country that is so unique and so different of how Cyprus approaches the world. India is a global powerhouse. This is a fact. India is a megatrend. This is a fact. It has the richest of history and culture and potential that is unrivaled. This is a fact. And with these facts in mind, I would like to offer some insights on how Cyprus perceives the world. And this makes sense if one adopts two structural parameters. First, an assessment as to how the world looks right now, as it is, and not as we would like it to be. As the Minister says, we deal in the world of realities. Secondly, Cyprus' view and approach to the world factors in an inevitable comparison. There is, rightly so, an underlying dual question. Why Cyprus? And by extension, how can Cyprus and India be partners? Allow me to start by sketching a synopsis of how we see the world. We are meeting here today in the midst of a polycrisis, one the effects of which are making no exception as to their reach, their impact. There is no insularity, no immunity. We all went through the global financial meltdown, the COVID crisis, the energy and inflation spike, the war in Ukraine after Russia's illegal invasion and continuing aggression, the overall questioning of the founding principles of the international order and system, the ongoing situation in Gaza, another challenge, the risks involved in Syria, the threat in the Red Sea, Iran's nuclear aspirations, Sudan, Libya, the African continent as a battlefield for influence and for radicalization. Radicalism, extremism, terrorism are today a global reality, as is the instrumentalization of migration, and as a consequence, populism is on the rise. But above all, there is uncertainty as to the direction of the global system. The competition for resources is not new. The battle for influence, neither. But the current approach to such issues is not a passing phenomenon. I believe it is here to stay. And until the world system adjusts, we are in a period of constant transformation. Let's not be naive, thinking that this is a temporary phase. The political landscape has changed, and the new order is being formed as we speak. Right now, no one is willing to act as an insurance policy for the security of the global system. We must all do that, individually and together. And in this, there is opportunity. Supply chains, connectivity, crisis management, all these are the renewed reality. We are witnessing the return of history. And this is a back to the future moment, and one that has to do a lot with geography. At a time like this, marked by fragmentation, instability, and uncertainty, Cyprus believes in building networks of cooperation rather than walls of division. Despite the division we have been facing for more than half a century, the daily facing of an existential threat makes one's worldview realistic, and we are seeing the importance of highlighting one's value to the others. Value to the others because no one has the luxury of sidelining added value. Cyprus is defined by geography. As a consequence, it has always been part of the historical transformative forces that have shaped political landscape in the Western Mediterranean. And for that, we paid and we continue to pay a high price. A certain neighbor, all-powerful and ambitious, not shy in resorting to the use of force, is ever present. But yet, here we are, surviving, capitalizing on our competitive advantages. As a member of the European Union, the United Nations, the Commonwealth, a country with deep historical and cultural ties to the Eastern Mediterranean and beyond, Cyprus serves as a unique platform for dialogue and partnership. With an economy that is booming, with economic growth that has been first top in the European Union in 2024, with a public debt declining to 65% of GDP and is going lower, with unemployment below 5%, with an economy that is so diversified that includes a commercial fleet that is the 11th largest in the world, with the fintech and the technology sector making now 19% of our economy, with tourism, with a startup mentality, defense industry, and a global center for services. And above all, with an excellent network of diplomatic relations with our region, a potential springboard for doing business and for geopolitical outposting. These are some of the comparative advantages of Cyprus. At the same time, there are hidden advantages and contributions. Cyprus is among the top 10 foreign investors in India, with cumulative investments of approaching $15 billion between 2000 and now. These inflows have focused on key sectors such as information technology, pharmaceuticals, and real estate. These, I repeat, are part of our package of what we have to offer. Ladies and gentlemen, pragmatism is the new term. Transactionalism is a new catchphrase. The trade antagonism, the tariffs are all elements of this renewed reality. But it's also an impetus for opening up new trade routes and forming alliances. This is about ambition, vision, strategy, and action. India clearly has the vision and the action plan. And may I say, so does Cyprus. And I'm approaching this from the perspective of a small state. So in this context, in this global competition, how can little Cyprus, a small state, operate? The answer is not straightforward. There is nonetheless a bundle of premises and realizations that are useful in reaching an answer. First, there are practical political consequences from the material inequality between states. Formally, we are all equal in the eyes of public international law. But pragmatism, this defining kaleidoscope, points to a different reality, one where power, size, population, resources, economies, these are the defining elements. These are the factors influencing international events and developments. And for the verification of this, one can again look at Cyprus. We have an aggressor, we have an invader, an occupier on our island. At the same time, that country is a well sought after ally and friend for many. Others that have a long history with them. But as the minister has recently said, they have also a history of forgetting that long history. So there is clearly a discrepancy in the eyes of public international law and the realism, the pragmatism, the cynicism of diplomatic activity. Secondly, we need to differentiate between how small states see the world and how the world sees the small states. And these are not necessarily the same. An internal point of view, from the perspective of a small state, is a useful guide on how to navigate dark waters. There is always, of course, the risk of seeing the world how we would like the world to be. For a small state, this is extra dangerous. World history, as our Singaporean counterpart has elegantly stated, world history is full of the carcasses of small states. Third, the modus operandi of small states is different than that of others. For us, negotiations are a very different ballgame, for a very simple reason. Normally, we don't have the leverage. This is a critical factor. In a negotiation, if you have leverage, things become much easier. That doesn't necessarily mean that we don't have the negotiating skills. I believe, on the contrary, that we have developed a set of skills in negotiation that are extremely valuable and useful, not only for us, but for others as well. We are, as I already mentioned, in the midst of a number of crises. So the critical question, how do you create space politically, economically, diplomatically? The answer, by being entrepreneurial, by forming alliances, by being reliable and useful, and often by surprising others with your initiatives. Let me give you an example. After October 7th and what happened in Gaza and the barbaric attacks by Hamas, one unifying point for the international community has been the need to increase the flow of humanitarian aid. For that to take place, one needed to make sure that they had the support and the endorsement by Israel, who had control of the situation in security terms. Cyprus devised and proposed and offered to the international community a supplementary and additional option, that of the maritime humanitarian route from Cyprus, first directly to Gaza and then through the port of Ashdod. I've heard every reason why this cannot happen, should not happen, and why it won't happen. Yet it did, and it's still ongoing. As we speak, another vessel is departing for Gaza. More than 30,000 tons have left Cyprus and have reached Gaza. In September alone, this was 10% of the aid that went to Gaza, according to UNOPS. And all this always in cooperation and in coordination with the United Nations. A small country in a turbulent period, in a dangerous region, on an issue that the world, the global spotlight was on, managed to put something together to add to the mix of what the international community can do for what has been a crisis that affects everyone. So we have shown that we have the willingness to intervene when we could have stayed silent, and we have the capacity to design something and then have proof of concept. As a small state, it has been proven that it can be, the small states can be active persuaders. And we must continue to try to increase our bandwidth. Cyprus has been described as the unsinkable aircraft carrier. And our policy is to employ our geographical potential and our network of relations in the most constructive and positive of ways. To act as a bridge between regions, a regional convener, and also a whisperer for friendly countries in the European Union. In an era where connectivity defines power, Cyprus offers strategic advantages. As a financial and legal hub within the European Union, connected to the Middle East, North Africa, and beyond. As part of regional trilateral partnerships with Greece, Israel, Egypt, Jordan, advancing cooperation in energy and security. As a country with excellent relations with all the countries in the Gulf, and as a platform for dialogue between Europe and Asia. In this dynamic situation, we see India as a natural partner and ally. Today, with India emerging as the leading voice in an increasing multipolar world, Cyprus sees India not only as an old friend, but also as a partner for future cooperation. Both nations, shaped by our legacy of colonial rule, have emerged as modern democracies that cherish freedom, the rule of law, and the respect for international law. States with strategic geographies, we understand the value of balance, diplomacy, and dialogue. And over the decades, we have consistently supported each other on matters of existential importance for both. The visit of the Prime Minister to Cyprus in June 2025 marked a historical milestone for this partnership. It provided the launchpad for future collaboration, and as a result of that, we now have the 5-year joint action plan agreed between us, which constitutes the roadmap for the implementation of the joint declaration adopted during the Prime Minister's visit to Cyprus. A crucial platform and opportunity for cooperation is IMEC, a visionary proposal that can transform connectivity between regions. It's a geopolitical tool with potential to reshape global trade, trade routes, and critical economic activities. The Mediterranean region is geographically a key component for IMEC, and Cyprus is well positioned to play its role in this emerging architecture, an architecture that also depends on the excellent relations between the participating countries. As a gateway into the European continent, Cyprus is located uniquely to serve as a hub and as a direct entry point to the EU. Being a member of the European Union, we are committed to strengthening the EU-India partnership. And in our upcoming presidency of the Council, in around 62 or 63 days, it provides us an opportunity to inject new dynamism into this relationship. Cyprus strongly supports the conclusion of the long-negotiated FTA between EU and India, and the successful conclusion of this agreement will not only strengthen EU-India ties, but it will also unlock immense economic opportunities for Cyprus, for India, and for all the European countries. But above all, it will send a powerful message that the shared commitment to prosperity, innovation, and sustainable growth can be the alternative. Dear friends, our world today is in an undeniable state of flux. As we navigate increasing polarity and complexity, Cyprus remains committed to being a responsible, engaged, and outward-looking state. We look to the future with the knowledge that our global partnerships matter, and that few matter more than the one we share with India. From historical solidarity to contemporary cooperation, from shared values to shared aspirations, Cyprus and India are charting a course together that is both strategic and forward-looking. This organic partnership has the potential to yield results fitting of the deep and historical roots. Our future has a strong past. Thank you very much.